Serious, what do you think is the creepiest, most disturbing unsolved mystery ever? Story 1. The Ibadan Forest of Horror in Nigeria. A local taxi driver goes missing, and his friends create a makeshift search party and investigate a forest. Instead of finding their friend, they find an abandoned school or factory that have the remnants of a hellish torture, murder, ritual killing, and human trafficking. 8 survivors were rescued. Numerous body parts, rotting corpses, and personal artifacts were found. The perpetrators were never found, although local politicians and ritualists were suspects. Whilst this discovery is disturbing, the mystery for me is that the original taxi driver still hasn't been found. Story 2. I am an avid unresolved mysteries reader, and I don't know why it has stuck with me, but Carly Hughes, 16-year-old girl, called her stepmother to pick her up from a party. Reportedly was too scared to sleep because she thought someone would kill her, and the next day she disappeared. There were some weird interviews and dynamics between step-parents and birth parents, and a bunch of theories abound. Story 3. The disappearance of Zeb Quinn. He was 18 years old when he went missing in 2000, was working his shift at a local Walmart, and afterwards wanted to look at a new car with a colleague, when he allegedly received a call that made him take off frantically. After that, he was never seen again. The strangest thing is that a few days later his car was found in a parking lot, with the headlights turned on, a pair of lips, and an exclamation mark drawn on the back window in pink lipstick, and a live Labrador puppy sitting inside. In 2017, the colleague was arrested for his murder, but all the strange details still make no sense at all. Story 4. The disappearance of Lars Men, a German man who went on vacation in Bulgaria in 2014. He was last seen at the airport, where he was brought into a private room by airport security after his mother had called telling them her son was behaving strangely, saying there were people after him over the phone the night before. A few minutes later, he's seen bolting, and I mean full-on sprinting out of the room without his luggage. He ran out of the airport, scaled the huge fences around the perimeter, and was never seen again. Hundreds of witnesses, CCTV footage, and a police presence, and the man still basically disappeared off the face of the earth in broad daylight. Story 5. A lesser-known one that sticks with me is Selena Mays, 12 years old, 9 months pregnant, disappears from her room overnight. She didn't bring any belongings with her, and neither she or the baby have ever been found. Her dad and his family were involved with a shady church, but there's no proof they know what happened to her. The obvious theory is that her baby's father killed her and hid the body to avoid statutory rape charges, but nobody knows or will admit to knowing anyhow who he was. Story 6. As a diver, I find the disappearance of Ben McDaniels to be super interesting. They say he went into a cave and never came out, but some of the world's top cave divers looked for him and never found a body. The only evidence that he went diving were staged gas bottles, but they were filled with normal air, not any sort of mixture or anything. The owner of Vortex Springs, where Ben went missing, also died mysteriously the year after. Story 7. The murder of Lindsay Buziak, a case close to home for me that I don't see mentioned as much as it should. A relatively junior realtor in Victoria, British Columbia, is showing a luxury home to some clients, and the clients murdered her. The clients, a man and a woman, cold called her saying they needed to find something to buy ASAP. She was apprehensive of showing the property by herself, and asked that her boyfriend come or wait outside or something. Turns out the boyfriend was running late and arrived around as the murder just occurred, but I don't believe he saw anything as the suspects fled through the back door. It's believed that she was the victim of a professional hit for some unknown reason. Also, the cell phone that was used to contact her was purchased by someone with an alias in Vancouver 6 or so months prior, and was only ever used to contact her. Story 8. Las Cruces Bowling Alley Massacre. In February 1990, in Las Cruces, New Mexico, 2 intruders entered the bowling alley through an unlocked door before opening time. The cook, Ida Holguin, was forced by one gunman to go to the office where Stephanie Senek, her 12-year-old daughter Melissa repass, and Melissa's 13-year-old friend Amy Hauser were being held by the other gunmen. The women and girls were forced to lie on the ground, while the gunmen stole $5,000 from a safe. The alley's pin mechanic, Steve Tarrant, arrived at the alley with his daughters, 6-year-old Paula and 2-year-old Valerie, who he'd been unable to find a babysitter for. The gunmen then shot everyone. The gunmen haphazardly set fire to the office, but it didn't burn much. After they left, 12-year-old Melissa was able to call the police despite being shot 5 times. She and the cook would survive their wounds. Melissa's mother, Stephanie Senek, would initially survive, but would succumb to complications 9 years later. 2-year-old Valerie would survive long enough to be taken to the hospital, but died there. The gunmen have never been identified. After the incident, Stephanie Senek's father, Ronald Senek, who I believe owned the bowling alley and was out of state at the time of the killings, didn't cooperate with authorities. Some believe that the killings might have been a targeted hit in retaliation against Ronald for something he did. Story 9. Missy Bevers. A suspect in full SWAT armor breaks into a church and smashes windows and breaks open doors with a hammer, looking for a local fitness instructor. They then find and beat her to death before getting away. There is high-quality surveillance video of both them and their car, but investigators couldn't make out the license plate. There has been a suspect who was cleared because of an alibi, and there's been no recent updates. Story 10. In my opinion, it's the city of San Francisco train derailment that occurred in Hardin, NV on 8th of December 1939. The train, run by the Southern Pacific Railroad at the time, derailed at a bridge over the Humboldt River at a speed range of 60 to 90 miles per hour. The accident resulted in 24 fatalities and multiple injuries. Days later, investigators discovered tools at the bottom of the Humboldt River, determining that the wreck was caused by sabotage of the rails. Story 11. One case that baffles and fascinates me is that of the Erickson sisters. They are said to have suffered from a shared psychosis known as folie à deux. But what the heck is that and what caused it? They are the 40-year-old twin sisters from Sweden, who became front-page news in the UK in 2008 when they repeatedly ran into traffic on the M6 motorway. A day or two later, one of them, Sabina, stabbed a man to death in his home for no apparent reason. She fled the house, striking herself on the head with a hammer as she ran to a highway bridge. She jumped off, falling 12 meters and landing on a highway. She survived, with several fractures. I've heard the audio from a TV news crew who happened to capture part of the M6 incident, and just can't forget one of them yelling at her sister about how they'll steal your organs. Whatever happened to them was intense, sudden, and largely unprecedented. Story 12. In 1969, a student was killed in the stacks of the library at my old college, Penn State, and was found with a singular stab wound on her chest. It wasn't even late or anything, and while there were many suspects, no one was ever arrested for it. It's insane how someone could kill a person in broad daylight at a major university and get away with it. It's not really anything super crazy in comparison to other stories here. It's just weird to me personally because I would always study there and I didn't find out about it until after I graduate.